What's going on? Okay, hi. This is Alex Des Johnson, and I'm the host of the Small Bear Show. I own and operate Nocturnicorn Books, which is a boutique literary imprint based in uh, three places, but primarily Carmichael, California. We also publish out of Caen, France, and we have collaborators in England as well as Canada. And I'm a poet and author and journalist, and I've been published alongside people like Allen Ginsberg and my good friend and collaborator Catfish McDarris and Charles Bukowski, among other things, or people, I should say. And I'm here to celebrate our good friends and who I'm also publishers of. I have the distinct honor and pleasure to be talking with two of the most important voices of our time. And I don't say that lightly. Ellen Mabey is critically acclaimed author of such books as The Cowardice of Amnesia, which was published by Henry Rollins, edited by Exene Cervenka of X and the Knitters and Antichrist, etc., and with cover photography by and cover art by Viggo Mortensen, as in The Lord of the Rings. And she's performed all over the world. She's performed on MTV, BBC, PBS, the Bumbershoot Festival, Glastonbury, Lollapalooza, South by Southwest. Her fans include, among others, Henry Rollins, Greil Marcus, Exene and John Doe, and um, Jackson Brown. And she's played alongside Jackson Brown. She collaborated with Jackson Brown. She's read with Exene Cervenka, and truly one of the great original voices of our time. I would say universally beloved. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Ellen Mabey, and she's just a really strong, good person and a close friend of mine for at least more than a decade. And we have also, and we've had Ellen on the show so many times. I think it's some sort of Guinness record, right? And we have Ron Whitehead, whose endorsements, one of the endorsements that if anybody had just this one endorsement, if anybody had this one endorsement, they would be that would be sufficient for street cred for all time. Um, so this man was a fan of of our guest Ron Whitehead. As everybody knows, the legend, the man, the Gonzo journalist, the man who invented Gonzo, Mr. Hunter S. Thompson, said of Ron, he's crazier than nine loons, and something about a genius that involves poetry and pure mathematics. I don't have the exact quote. He was a close personal friend of people like Lawrence Ferlinghetti, William S. Burroughs, Hunter. He inducted um, uh, Hunter S. Thompson into the Louisville, Kentucky. Um, there was an event that was, and it also involved Johnny Depp. It was in this film called Outlaw Poet: The Legend of Ron Whitehead, which I highly recommend. It's a fascinating film. It's a fascinating man. He's worked with people like the late, great Jimmy Carter. He's worked with and collaborated with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And the list of his published books, more than 40 books, I would say, around their albums. He's made so many record albums. He collaborated with so many people. He's worked with Storm Generation. the band Storm Generation, I believe, and I don't even know where to begin. So welcome, Ron Whitehead, welcome, Ellen Maybe.
Oh,
And
thank you, Alex, and hello, Ellen. It's good to see you and
Hello.
meet you in person. It's good to see you too,
Thank
Alex.
thank you so much, Ron. And so,
you.
One thing I want to interject with Ellen here. I, I co-produced a 10-day international arts festival in the Netherlands um, in the late 90s, and at one night on stage, I had Kara, bass player for Rollins, and Mike Watt, bass player for the Minutemen, and Dave Thomas, who recently passed away, Per Ubu,
oh
and
my God,
Bob Holman, who put slam poetry on the global map there at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe and in the Bowery Poetry Club, and David Amram, the five of them, David, who I just performed with in New Orleans at Gonzo Fest, all five of them on stage at the same time. It was amazing. It was just amazing. And one other thing,
man.
the there's have you ever been, Ellen? Have you ever been to the Doll? I think it's the Doll Hut in Anaheim. Um,
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay,
Wow, I've heard of it.
a lot of punk bands have performed there. It's a small venue. You can see the fireworks when you walk out back of the green, so-called green room. You can see the fireworks from Disneyland going off. And so I did a Southern California tour with Black Heat out of Paris, France, and we performed there. And I was still drinking then, and I don't think I was totally naked, but I was nearly naked. The bar was just filled, the club was filled with bikers mostly, and I just got ridiculous that night. I've done some really stupid things, and that was one of those nights when I was on my stupidest best. So, anyway, I just want to share that ridiculousness with you.
That is pretty
Ah,
ridiculous. Yeah. That actually, speaking of Mike Watt, I actually went on a blind date with his sister Melinda Watt, and we wound up at this club called the Troubadour. I'm sure you know the Troubadour in West LA, and we went to see the band the Misfits, right? And so
okay.
it was incredible, but she thought I was a vampire. I mean, Melinda kept saying, Alex, I know you're a vampire. And I was like, oh, just, the black, clothing, whatever, because I'm a goth guy, right? And because I'm not really a vampire. But that was the day that we were introduced by my friend, who was the PA for Marilyn Manson, Gene Simmons, and Lemmy Kilmister, introduced me to Kim Fowley of the notorious manager of the Runaways, right? And so that was a weird scene. I know you had him at the 1996 Insomnia thing, whatever, I can never pronounce that thing with Poppy
Insomniac Con. Yeah.
Insomnia. Yes.
Yeah. We
So
did our first one in 1993,
yeah,
and but in April 1st, 1992, I produced my first open mic, and 400 people came, and two singer musicians came up and asked if they could do a song, and I said sure, and so I saw and felt the energy in the room change um, with music coming in, and got all this nonstop poetry going on. And so I decided that from then on, as many events as possible that I produced would be music and poetry events to bring two uh, different but connected groups together, but they still hadn't meshed. And so in my world anyway. And so that's what I've been doing since then, and it creates just a powerful, uplifting, and inspiring energy that I love. Coming from a musical a background of, I come from a long line of farmers, coal miners, strong women, um, singers, musicians, folks with the second sight, and so I grew up with that. It's in my DNA. So I love collaborating with people from all walks of life who are doing music and poetry and and storytelling, prose writing, combine them all. And I always come away inspired to do new creative work myself.
I would say that the fusion of poetry and music. I mean, I started out as a music journalist, and music is my love and passion. And one of the things that I think I've innovated with Nocturnicorn books is I brought on, musicians as well as fiction authors, horror authors, and beat poets that I think is unique. Among the musicians that we have on board that contribute to Nocturnicorn books are like David J. Haskins from Bauhaus, who wrote the song Bela Lugosi's Dead, right? We have Jarabo, Carrie Lee Chrome, who founded the Runaways, and Tara Vanflower from Lycia and Typo Negative. And so I feel that what you're saying, Ron, because Ellen, of course, and you have performed with you are musicians yourself, and a lot of Ellen's um, fans and collaborators are musicians like Maxine Cervenka, of course, and Jackson Brown. So I really wanted to talk about music and poetry and the connection. And I'm a huge buff. Is that a word? Buff? I'm a buff. That sounds weird.
Buff is a word.
It's a buff. Yeah. I I think of it as like almost like bluff, like I'm falling off a cliff and or I'm bluffing. But Friedrich Nietzsche talked about music in the birth of tragedy and this, from the spirit of music as the original mother, right? He said that music is mother. And so I wanted maybe if you could, you know, have your thoughts, and I also want to hear from Ellen about poetry and music as kind of music as the prime lifter.
I'll let Ellen go first here. Ellen, we both have a lot to say about this, I'm sure. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have been fortunate to work with music since really, in a way, the Iguana Cafe, which was open from 89 to 95. It's interesting that a lot of these years in different places, so much seemed to be going on. But there had been a record store right before called Bebop Records. They closed around 89, and they had a lot of wonderful shows and music and different things going on in poetry. And there just seemed to be a natural collaboration at the both places. And Iguana had it was a very much a listening kind of, in fact, the owners had like instead of having any kind of thing that would noise, it would just be very quiet and attentive. So the musicians very much were listening to the poets and vice versa, and there just seemed to be natural collaborations happening. And so throughout time, I've always felt very fortunate to have any opportunity. A lot of my work tends to reference music, and I really enjoy working with music and poetry together. It is a neat thing. And then a lot of times at Beyond Baroque, a long time we had poetry rodeo where we would accompany the open mic with the band, and just that was really fun, and it's really neat. People just have so much fun here. It's lovely when it works together. So it's really cool. Yeah, I'm grateful for it. This is so cool. I'm so glad this is fun that we're getting to meet and talk about this. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And
Thanks, thanks, Ellen. I wasn't about to do this show with. I was going to adjust my schedule no matter what to your schedule, Ellen, so we could be on here together. Because I've been wanting and looking forward to doing something with you. So, Ellen, remind me, whereabouts do you live? Out there in the far left, in the left coast?
Oh, in Laguna Woods. It's pretty close to Laguna Beach. It's near Irvine. It's like yeah. I lived a long time in Los Angeles too, and I've been in New York and Prague at different times, but Los Angeles and Southern California majority of the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. All right. All right. Well, I have so many things to say about music. For me, music, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And that's the opening of the book of John in the New Testament. And I was raised on a farm in coal country in western Kentucky, where Bill Monroe birthed bluegrass music. Same place across the Green River from Muhlenberg County, where the Everly Brothers and Merle Travis were from. And I got connections in all that music, deep rooted. But I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, and I began to question. I loved reading the Bible. I read it many times, studied it, and it was just filled with incredible stories, especially the sons of God saw the daughters of men attractive or beautiful, and they had sex and gave birth to a race of giants. And standing in the sequoias and in the redwood forest, it's easy to believe in a race of giants being around. And so, but I've always felt that poetry, the word, and music, which is the language of angels, were one and the same. And so those are direct links. They come from the shadow realms of the creative imagination, and that realm between this world and the realms of the creative forces of the universe. And so to connect with that energy is not necessarily a divine gift, because as much as I will occasionally use religious imagery, I've really worked to move away from that, because I embrace all beliefs and non-beliefs. And so I finally decided that the way to talk about those things is to name that state of being, that realm of being, which we are directly linked with once we open ourselves up to it and we want to be one with it, and we say, I surrender my will to you, O creative forces of the universe. And once I did that, all the doors opened that I tried to get open before I did that. I surrendered my will to that energy, and then the doors open automatically. And poems and songs, all of which are the same as far as I'm concerned, at least that's what I strive towards. That's the ideal towards which I strive, is for the poem to be a song and the song to be a poem. And all the great musicians I've worked with want to be poets, and so many of the great poets want to be musicians. I mean, look at Allen Ginsberg, working with musicians, and including the Clash. And but when I brought Allen to the University of Louisville, 1,500 people attended that event, and he did 2 sets. And he came and stayed for a week. And that's really when we started working together, the last 5 years of his life. And he started by he opened up the show. I introduced him, and then he was playing the harmonium and sang a William Blake poem. Blake is one of my favorite poets. And and then he eased his way into his own work. And then I have to interject this. At the intermission, ELLYN went to sign books, and the vice president of the University of Louisville brought his wife up to meet me and to introduce himself and her, and said, "This is the best thing that's ever happened for students and professors and the public here at the University of Louisville, and please keep up the great work." And then ELLYN came back out. I went and sat by him for a few minutes while he was signing, and then he came back up for the second set, and he told about his trip to Mexico City and getting his asshole worked on. And then he talks about his love life some, and then he opened with his poem Sphincter to open the second set, and it was all downhill for me at the University of Louisville after that. So I don't know how I got sidetracked there, but staying on the connection with music and the beat generation, I took my kids. Lee Ronaldo, guitarist for Sonic Youth, is a friend of mine, and so when Sonic Youth was opening for Pearl Jam, a tour, it was in the 90s. Lee invited me to come up and bring my kids and had the best seats in the house, and then went backstage and hung out and met everybody. And the wall of sound that Sonic Youth had, which I love, when they were just like peaking with the wall at its highest point, I screamed to my kids. I felt the only thing I could feel, because I had become one with the sound, was an unusual heartbeat going on in my heart. And I leaned over and yelled at my kids. I said, "If I die during this show, just remember I brought you here." And so that was a real high point for me. And I ended up doing the next to last, what turned out to be, and I didn't know it at the time, of course, the next to last penultimate interview with Burroughs. And then I opened the door up for Lee to do what turned out to be the last interview, and the whole band flew out and it took Michael Stipe with them out to Lawrence, Kansas, and interviewed him and took photos. So I was blessed by that. And we had Lawrence we wanted Lawrence to come to New Orleans in '96 for that Insomniac-a-thon, but he couldn't make it. But we did a live. James Grauholtz, his widow, came, and James came after Bill died to Louisville and stayed for 3 or 4 days, and we had a good visit. But James was in New Orleans, and he helped us do a live phone interview with Burroughs during that event. And then Doug Brinkley, the presidential historian, and I had a historic marker put up in front of the house in Algiers across the Mississippi there where Bill lived in 48 and 49, and that Jack Kerouac talks about in On the Road. And I was able to just go back a couple weeks ago when I was in New Orleans with Mark. I rode on Mark Lippman's poetry bus. Further is what he christened it, and it's fantastic. And he's doing a cross-country tour on it. And so I rode with a bunch of poets over to the house, and Kurt Hemmer, brilliant scholar, said a few words, gave a talk, and a couple poets and I read a poem, and I said a few words about the historic marker. So anyway, we got off on something of a tangent there. when I was teaching college, I used to have to ask my students where we started so they could bring me back to where I started because I forgot where the hell I started in the conversation. And my kids told me when they were growing up that when they brought a new friend over to the house, they said, whatever you do before they came in the house, don't ask our dad one question or we won't have time to play. And so I thought that was hilarious. So anyway, those are some connections with, for me, with music and poetry, the word and music, and which make life thrilling and uplifting and inspiring. And those are reasons why I do what I do, to be one with the creative forces of the universe. And I just want I want everybody to be lifted up and inspired to find their own authentic voice and express themselves in whatever creative fashion they are inspired to express themselves in.
I think that's thrilling, and that leads naturally to what I was. Several things came to mind, Ron, when you were talking. One, even before you mentioned Blake particularly. Also, I have to say that I can entirely relate as a former college instructor, you know, and as a neurodivergent individual, which is something I think I share with you and ELLYN. Um, I cannot just go in a linear fashion if somebody had a gun to my head. You know, it would be just like, Alex, I want you to go from A to Z. Well, my brain does not work. It's not
Yeah,
wired that way. I'm never going to do it. Forget
no,
about it.
yeah,
But you are a contributor, as is ELLYN, and in fact, you and ELLYN were among the first contributors to what became Neurospicy, a defiantly, as in fuck you, you know, neurotypical mediocrity. I'm not against neurotypicals. I'm just saying that society puts us down, right?
yeah,
But I was you were in on the ground floor of We Are Gregor, and it became Neurospicy, a defiantly different anthology. And the reason I rebranded it is because I was sick and tired of feeling like there was some sort of deficit, and contributors such as Lyric Rivera, aka Neurodivergent Rebel, who's an amazing person, right? Sort of and I had them on the show. They are a transgender, individual, um, and beautiful, beautiful person.
yeah.
Whatever the gender, it really didn't matter, right?
Doesn't
So
right.
a lot of things came to mind, my friend, because your poem, which you wrote for Gregor, which is included now in Neurospicy, exclamation point, is called, I Have a Responsibility.
Yeah,
And you address the fact that no matter what, we are all conscripted and enrolled in a kind of a what what Ellen wrote a poem called Whiff of Wonder, which is also included in the book, which gave rise to the name of our new imprint name, which is A Collective Paw. And she wrote this beautiful poem about containing the line A Collective Paw, which really spoke to my imagination. There was a lot of things that resonated with William Blake for me, as far as his poems, such as, all religions are the same, or all religions are true, rather. And you, as a scholar, as a Oxford scholar, certainly would have far higher, better knowledge of Blake than I do, or than ELLYN does. But also, see, because he believed in original genius, right? Um, he believed in the poetic genius, I should say, rather, correct myself. Blake believed in the poetic genius, and his that is why his radical radical cosmic vision of equality, which encompasses all beings, the earth and the goddess mother, um, was as strong and as influential as John Locke. And I think far better than John Locke because he was a pure mystic
Yes.
visionary, right?
Yeah, which is the ideal supreme as far as I'm concerned. The mystic visionary. That's what the great poet is, no matter what. The mystic visionary, and that's what Blake was. Blake and Rumi are my. I'm constantly asked who are your favorite poets. Go down the list, whatever. Blake and Rumi are my two favorites. I have many favorites though, but that's the life I have chosen to live. The life that Blake lived, and I don't care about any all the peripheral material stuff that concerns me. I want to be the ideal established by William Blake, which is the mystic visionary, towards which I daily strive. And it's something natural and inherent in me. It's not something that's forced. It's something I have the deepest desire to do and to be. So, and every day since I started living, which has been several decades now, since I made the choice to live this way, every day has been a holiday. No matter how terrible life might be, it's a holiday. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic, and we're really blessed, to have your voice and your almost daily poems on Facebook. They're really amazing, and I know that you are our eminence Greece. You are our tribal leader and our chieftain. And one of the amazing things about Neurospicy, particularly, is we have a multi-generational you know, contributors. We have not only we have Michael, Duckwall, but we have Charles Duckwall as well. We have Jeffrey Thomas, the great, horror writer and weird fantasy writer. We also have Jade Thomas, his 15-year-old half Vietnamese daughter, right? And so we in Neurospicy, I just want to plug Neurospicy because it is available on Kindle and everybody should go out and get a copy of it.
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're plugging it because
Yeah.
from the get-go, I saw as a college professor, when I read the first paper a student turned in, I could see that they weren't normal according to society, and they were some of the most creative and best students I had, but they had been treated like shit by society,
Yeah.
and they D's and F's and barely struggled through. And I haven't had mentors myself. I became a mentor, and so I became their mentor and started in polite, often invisible ways, but often not, promoting and encouraging them. And so many of them went on to are now doing incredible things they love doing, whether it's everyday stuff, but so many of them went on to be productive artists in one form or another, which was their dream all along. But they were just told they were idiots, and so they hadn't gone anywhere. But they just saw the world differently. So it was just a gift. It's a gift to recognize that. And so when I started, I wrote a poem when I first started about inclusivity, because the ivory tower of academia was all about exclusivity, and only a few people belong here, and who are academics. And so that's one reason I became a professor. I dropped out of college the first time because all I heard was there's no such thing as original thought. It's all been said and done before. And my first thought whenever I heard that was bullshit.
Right.
There's original thought going on right now. I know because I have it, and look around. It's everywhere. And so I made a point to, even when I'm producing events, large or small, to even include a few academic poets. If I went to an academic poetry reading, I would have to drink several extra cups of coffee just to stay awake. It was so boring.
Yeah, right. There's so many things that come to mind. First of all, okay, I attended I deliberately I attended UC Davis as an undergrad, and then I attended Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is in the ghetto, as for for reasons as to get my master's degree. Um, my former father-in-law, who was a he actually attended Harvard in the same class as Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic
Yeah.
Park, right? He was always putting me down because I never attended Harvard, and he not only did he attend Harvard, he was a shelver at the prestigious, Widner Library at Harvard, Harvard, right? So it didn't matter, like to me. I mean, to him, it didn't matter to him that that my my desire, I wanted to be, a sort of a cross between Grail Marcus, William S. Burroughs, and Hunter S. Thompson and Allen Ginsberg. That was my aspiration. To him, it didn't matter because so
Great.
so there's like so many wonderful things that have occurred. Um, so you were talking about mentors and people who endorsed you and believed in you. So for me, one of those people, this was about 8 years before, 8 or 9 or 10 years before I met Ellen Mabey and John Shirley, who became two of my biggest supporters and endorsers. There's a guy named Tom Sullivan, and I'm sure you know Tom Sullivan, right? He and Betty White were clients of this boutique secretarial service that I worked for in Torrance, California, right? Now, Tom Sullivan is a man, he's an Irish guy, right? He's an Irish guy, and he's a blind guy. He would always say, I'm a blind guy, right? And when he would call up and give dictation, he and Betty White were working on several books together. One of them was about their companion animal they shared named Diana. They wrote a book called The Leading Lady, and I had the great honor of transcribing it and transcribing from Betty White and Tom Sullivan. So Tom Sullivan, he's Irish as fuck. I mean, he's like, and his wife Patty says that his face is a map of Ireland. The Irish, and I'm Scots Irish myself. We come from fighting stock. I mean, we were we trace our lineage back to Mary Queen of Scots. So we've got these warrior clans, right? We're terrifying, right?
Yeah.
In World War II, they were called the Bloody Ladies.
Yeah.
Don't mess with the Irish, man. And so, or the the Celts, right? We've got a strong warrior streak in me,
Yeah.
but it's for peace. It's for
Yeah.
peace. And so Tom said, "Okay, I know you want to be a writer, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "You probably want to write for Playboy." I said, "Hell yeah!" And he said, "Okay, good. I'm going to give you a job." Now, this was not supposed to occur. He's a rebel from
Yeah.
hell. He's a Republican and he's a rebel. Okay. So he said, I want you to edit my book. Now, he wrote this book. It was published by Tom Wiley and Sons, right? It was blurbed by everybody from like Jack Nicklaus to Peter Coors, the chairman of Coors Brewing Company, to Betty White. It became a runaway New York Times bestseller. And he said, Alex, I want you to edit my book for me. And I said, "Are you sure about that? Because you're published with a top five. You're Tom Sullivan. You were literally like sang the Star Spangled Banner at the that at the Super Bowl, right? You were in movies with people like Jimmy Stewart, and he had recurring roles in Mork and Mindy, WKRP in Cincinnati. He was a regular guest on the Oprah Winfrey, yada yada, right? I was like, you're a legend, man. Are you sure? Because I'm a completely unknown. You said, Alex, just stop it with the bullshit, okay? You're good, right? I want you to edit my book. So I wound up being responsible for this book, which is called Seeing Lessons, 14 Life Secrets I've Learned Along the Way. Some of the people he learned life secrets from were people like Helen Keller, from Muhammad Ali, from Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Okay. So that gave his endorsement, his belief in me gave me the feeling that I am somebody, I
Yeah.
am somebody.
That's
And
right.
I and I went on I became friends with people like Lemmy Kilmister. I met I wrote a official New Line Cinema, novel spinoff with Pat Cadigan, the Queen of Cyberpunk. I've been blurbed by everybody from like John Shirley. I'm sure you know John Shirley, right?
Yeah.
To Are You Serious? And I-
Yeah.
and and then I became close friends almost immediately with, you know, with Ellen Mabey, so just a few years later, and all because of these people who throughout my life I was friends with. Did you know Catherine McGregor, Mrs. Olson from Little House? Um, she was good friends with James Baldwin. She was a good friend of mine as well through
Oh,
our
cool.
church, the Vedanta Society.
Cool.
And I don't want to go on and on because I want to hear from Ellen maybe. I want to hear
Yes,
Ellen's
ma'am.
thoughts about any of this. Yeah, just pile in.
Oh, well, no, I mean, yeah, everything, it's all very resonant. I mean, mentorship, people that help when people are insecure, and it's very important to have kindreds that come along. It's interesting because it's making me think of Stephen Sondheim because he had
Yeah,
mentorship from Oscar Hammerstein, and he always was mentoring people throughout his life. So I mean, it's very inspiring when people are really nice and kind to people, and help along the way in very important ways. And yeah, that's really, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and
I
teachers and people in community, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ellen, I got a question for you. Are you um how old are you? I'll be 75 in November.
Oh,
How
oh,
how,
I'm
how old
I'm
are you?
I'm 60. I'll be 61 in July.
Oh,
So
okay. All right.
yeah.
I was just curious. So, how actively involved are you still in performing your work? Are you still getting
Well,
out?
I mean, I haven't been getting out in person lately with everything with the pandemic still. I mean, I
Yeah.
still do stuff on Zoom and everything, but I hope to someday again because I love to. I've done some touring over the years, but I haven't really done much lately as far as in person and stuff. Yeah.
I'm just curious. So, is there a studio near you where you work? A recording studio? Do you have a?
No, I mean there.
This is what I'm thinking of.
Um.
If I do an album, I'm constantly doing new work, and I get invited to collaborate with people all over the world. And so if something opens up and I do a new album of music and poetry, um, that would include other people, would you be up to do a track on that album? Would you have a way to go to a recording studio and record a track? Um, and it's some. I just want to plant the seed. I'm not working on anything right now, but I'm gonna plant the seed, something for you to think about, so that if I come back to you, uh, I'll send you a message and say, hey, this is what I got going on. Will you be part of it? I want you to think about it.
Oh,
That's
well,
all.
well, thank you. It's an honor to even be considered. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's certainly because I mean, I'm sure there would be somehow. something, some way. I mean, even like, I'm trying to think, sometimes even, I mean, I'm not so technical myself, but perhaps there, I could think
I'm not
somehow.
either. I'm not either. I find people who are though.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
Okay.
wow, I'm just very touched. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. But
So
it's very exciting.
we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Then I just wanted to see if you'd be
Okay.
open to it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very excited. You're a very inspiring person, and thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Alex, is there anything else you'd like for Ellen and me to discuss? We
Um,
have 6 minutes.
yeah, I just, yeah, one thing that comes to mind is that, well, first of all, we always have a ritual around here. We call it, yeah, sort of a squeeze, and so we do a squeezy hug at the end of the show. And another thing that I very much want you on board with two of our anthologies. One is called A Collective Paw. It's an animal rights anthology. And the other one is Om Mahakali to the Goddess. I would really like a Ron Whitehead piece. It could be a reprint, doesn't matter, but I would love to have you, put you on the cover of Om Mahakali because you're an
Okay.
important.
I'd be honored to do both. Just please send me, email me the information and I'll send you something.
Great. That's wonderful. Yeah. And
Do we have time? I'd love to hear Ellen read a piece.
yes,
Ellen, will you read a piece?
please.
Sure. Let's see. Trees. Um, let's find something. Uh, well, see, I could read Picasso was pretty close to the top, so I can read Picasso.
Okay.
But thank you all. Okay. I found a year that likes my body. 1921. Girl sitting on a rock. Picasso painted a woman with my thighs. Walking around the museum, it hit me how Rubenesque is not just some word for someone who likes corned beef. There I was, naked on the edge of something, overlooking water, or was it salt? It was weird. Nobody was screaming fat chick at the frame. Nobody was making grieving sounds, but the girl in the painting looked sad, as though she knew new eras were smudging a forced liposuction with rough acrylic. The caption said girl sitting on rock, not woman who uses food to help cope with the lack of empathy in her sphere, not the gyms that are closed and there are better muscles to develop, not girl 1 calorie away from suicide, just flesh on a rock. Her eyes dripping question marks onto girl looking into a mirror. The vibrancy, the need to chew the ice cubism till the teeth bleed, the colors so deep they look wet. The museum guards watch me tentatively. I lean into the paintings. I veer to the outside to find out what Picasso called each work. I like titles, the vocabulary of oil. The girl on the rock whispered to me, "Go, girl." I love museums. Call me old fashioned, but I like face to face conversations. Thank you.
Yeah. I
Ellen,
love it.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You know what I've been enjoying seeing one of your doggies on the couch is so
Oh,
cute. Your doggies
thank
I
you.
see online.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. It's so sweet. It's
Uh,
so sweet.
I grew up on a farm and we had all the animals and people were constantly dropping off dogs and cats. And of course they had a home there, even if it was in the barn, they had a home. And so, but I've never, and I just connect with animals and I always have all kinds of animals, but I have never bonded so much with two dogs as these two blue healers that I have now, which Jen and I have been together. We celebrate our 14th anniversary on summer solstice coming up, and um, she does so much amazing work with dogs, and so she discovered a year and a half ago that she calls it her Church of Dog. And at the animal shelter on Sunday mornings, like 30 people walk all the dogs in the shelter. And so I went up, and it was like going in the rest home. When I was a boy, Mama used to take us kids to the rest home on Sundays for an hour or two to visit the old folks there. And the loneliness is so pervasive, it was heartbreaking. And so, and I had sensed that it was going to be that way. So I went up there, and it was just about overwhelming, the loneliness. All these dogs in cages, even though they're good, they're well taken care of, they have been mistreated. Most of them some have escaped, of course. And so anyway, my 2 old dogs died, and Jen, then I said, I'll never get another dog again unless it's a blue heeler. And in no time, she sent me photos of these 2 blue heelers in a Texas kill shelter, and that had lived in the wild along the Texas-Mexico border and had been caught. And they were a few hours away from being killed. And so I adopted them with her help. And it's just like, they are like the smartest, the best companions. They're just amazing. So anyway, I've been a dog myself a long time. So we hit it off.
I can relate to that. I'm literally a small bear, but I'm a dog too. You know?
But I love the bears. I love the wolves.
Yeah.
I could live with both, the bears and wolves. But in the meantime, I live with these 2 blue heelers.
Nice.
And they're fantastic. Is it okay if I read one to close out?
Of course, yes.
All right. Well, I was going to read on being an outlaw poet, but I want to read the piece that David Amram asked me to read in New Orleans, and it's The Wanderer's Prayer. So I'm going to read it. Wandering the world, I search for and find peaceful places of solitude in fields, in woods, back roads, in ancient graveyards, in empty cathedrals. Then with faith and conviction, I pray. Deliver me from the rule of patriarchy, for patriarchy has sown destruction long enough. The time has come for us all to turn away from greed and destruction and become healers. Deliver me from racism, for we are all dirty potatoes floating in the same tub of polluted water. Help us respect our beautiful differences while recognizing that we all have more in common than we have different. Deliver me from the ravages of climate change and the murder of Mother Earth. Help us wake up before it is too late. Help us heal the planet. Deliver me from fear. Remind me constantly that fear is forever overcome by love. Deliver me from power, for power without love and wisdom inevitably leads to war and destroys anyone and everyone in its path, including the one who has power but lacks love and wisdom. Deliver me from the disdain of arrogance, elitism, privilege, and the illusion of superiority, for no one is in any way better than anyone else. We are all equal. We are all in this together. Deliver me from the violence of greed. Grant me the desire to live simply and to share earth's bounty with others. Deliver me from the silence that enables any and all manifestations of abuse, war, and evil. Grant me the necessary balance of love, power, and wisdom, enabling me to be a nonviolent warrior for peace, love, and understanding. Grant me the ability to be a good neighbor and to dwell in harmony with nature. Thank you for the bounty of life, for the beauty of nature, for poems and songs, and for the love of family and friends. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ron.
I'm sorry Merritt couldn't make it today. I was looking forward to him being on here too. But I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Alex, for the invite. Thank you, ELLYN, for being flexible to work with your schedule so we could be on here together. I'm giving both of y'all a big hug right now.
Squeeze and squeeze your head.
Oh, this is so fun. This is so great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. And I got to go now. So I'll see y'all. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
You.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Ellen, so we both experienced this, right? On the broadcast while we were recording, Ron Whitehead asked whether or not you'd like to, collaborate with him on an album. Okay, so what I mean, what are your thoughts? Like what do you like, man, when was the last
So
time,
honored. I'm
right?
so honored and excited. That's so touching. Yeah.
Like,
That's
man,
so we're having storms here. I keep hearing there's these
wow,
loud thunder in here.
really.
That's such an honor.
I just like I, let me see if I can find it on my, yeah, man. Okay, so this this one this one I I I've worn it out. I listened to it so many times. This is the you know Rodeo for the Sheepish, right? Let's see. Um, yeah, Ellen has a great sense of humor and reads wonderfully. The musical accompaniment on the album is not mere background filler, but a true collaborative effort between Ellen and the musicians that really works. Ellen is a very gifted writer and a true gem, Henry Rollins. So that's like Hen House Studios, right? When did this come out? Rodeo for the Sheepish.
Oh, 2010, I think. I
2000.
think 2010.
So it features,
Either
this is like the gatefold. It has so this is a this is you and as a kid?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
incredible. How old were you at the time?
Oh, gosh, let me think. Maybe- I think I was about trying to think, maybe about five, maybe
Wow.
give or take, something like that.
So let's see. Poems by Ellen May.
So,
Yeah, instruments, Herlin Steinberger. So, and saxophone, Danny Moynihan, trombone, Dave Relic. Uh, and so what was it like to, this has some great, great tracks. Um, People and Parallel Universe are two of my favorites, but I'm gonna have to like listen to this album again quite soon. What was it like making this record?
um, it was very, very exciting. There was just being able to work with the different musicians on the pieces and how they worked with the pieces a little differently. Like some had choruses, some of the songs had the elements of choruses within the form of the songs, and some were differently put together depending on the songwriters. Each one kind of worked differently on it a little bit. Yeah, it was really. Oh my God, sorry, I'm getting nervous. There's a very big. You know what? I wonder if I should shut the computer. There's
Yeah,
really big
definitely.
storms. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Do you think?
No, no
Do you
worries.
mind? I don't
No,
know
no,
what's
no,
going on here.
it's
I
fine.
mean,
You take care of
if,
what you have to take care of, Ellen. And so
with
yeah, just be safe. Yeah. Yeah.
there's such big storms, or is it like just thunder, or do you think it's okay? It's lightning too. Do you think I should? I don't know. I am sorry.
No, no
This
worries.
is pretty
No,
intense.
yeah, you whatever
Do you think
you have to do, man.
we
Whatever
can?
you have to do.
Do you think it's safe? Do we still have electricity? But they're loud. I'm kind of. Do you think I should just? It should be okay. I think I can say for a little bit, but let's see.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
just
no
still.
worries.
It's
Yeah,
so loud. I mean, it's a little
of course.
startling for this kind of weather to be here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like too.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I wonder if just a few minutes, because it's very intensive. This is not kind of typical over
If,
here.
if it's overwhelming to you, like I don't want you to be stressed out.
Yeah.
to worry about doing the show as
Yeah.
well. So why don't we just have a squeeze and then
Oh yeah, is that okay? I'm sorry.
no,
It's
no,
really unusual for
do
here.
not apologize. You have to take care of yourself, and I love you so much. And I'll just
Because
a
But
squeeze.
this has been so wonderful. This has been a wonderful
Um,
day, and I'm so glad we could all be together. And Ron was
yeah,
awesome, and I just thank you so much for all your wonderful, kindness and everything. And thank you, and say hi to your parents, and
I
you
sure
take
will.
a really
I sure.
good.
Okay.
That's lots of love.
What's
Thank
the love?
you. See you.
Okay. See you
Lots of
soon.
love.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.